All right, we have pretty huge news here. I just saw this posted on Vox Populi, and it's big enough that I wanted to help spread this around. And the idea I want you to remember through all of this is the 3 I's. Ideological Institutional Infiltration. Ideological Institutional Infiltration, I.I.I. Because this is what we're seeing, and this is what explains all the bizarre behavior we're seeing out there in the world. If you can see behind the veil, it all of a sudden starts making a lot of sense. So you can see here on a Sky News Australia, Major League exposes members and lifts the lid on Chinese Communist Party. A major leak today occurred containing a register with the details of nearly 2 million CCP members, exposing members who are now working all over the world while also lifting the lid on how the party operates under Xi Jinping. Ms. Markson said the leak is a register with the details of the Communist Party members, including their names, their party position, birthday, national ID number, and ethnicity. Not all Chinese, I take it. It is believed to be the first leak of its kind in the world, Sky News host said. What is amazing about this database is not just that it exposes people who are members of the Communist Party and who are now living and working all over the world, from Australia to the US to the UK, and I will add, at all levels of government, business, entertainment, academia, and everyday life. You know, McCarthy has been demonized, but guys like Stefan Molyneux, if you saw his presentation before they banned his channel of YouTube, have done a lot of research that show that McCarthy was right. Communists have been infiltrating all levels of Western society for a very long time. And of course, the reason he's demonized is because he was right, and he was a little bit overzealous in his prosecutions, but it doesn't make him wrong. Ms. Markson said the leak demonstrates the party branches are embedded in some of the world's biggest companies and even inside government agencies. Yeah, that explains a lot, right? Lockdowns, for example. Communist Party branches have been set up inside Western companies, allowing the infiltration of those companies by CCP, who, if called on, are answerable directly to the Communist Party, to the chairman, to President Xi, not Trump, himself, along with the personal identifying details of 1.95 million Communist Party members, mostly from Shanghai. There are also details of 79,000 Communist Party branches, many of them inside companies. Ms. Markson said the leak is significant security breach and likely to embarrass Xi. I don't know about that, because these people have probably infiltrated all levels of the media as well. I wonder if it even gets covered. It's going to embarrass some global companies who appear to have no plan in place to protect their intellectual property from theft, from economic espionage. I don't know about that. These companies seem to be on board. Ms. Markson said the data was extracted from a Shanghai server by Chinese dissidents, whistleblowers, in April 2016, who have been using it for counterintelligence purposes. It was then leaked in mid-September to the newly formed international bipartisan group, the Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China, and that group is made up of 150 legislators around the world. It was then provided to an international consortium of 4 media organizations, the Australian, the Sunday Mail in the UK, to Standard in Belgium, and a Swedish editor to analyze over the past 2 months. And that's what we've done. Oh, no American media companies. Ms. Markson said it's worth noting that there's no suggestion that these members have committed espionage, but whether the concern is over whether Australia or these companies knew of the CCP members, and if so, have any steps been taken to protect their data or people. Yeah, no evidence of espionage, but let's be real. This explains a lot of what we're seeing in the world. A lot of what people are signaling to is their new overlords. You know, there's no free speech in China. There's no right to bear arms in China. There's no any of these so-called liberal policies. You know, in China, they've got a concentration camp of Uyghur Muslims. You guys on the left that think you're so virtuous.
But tonight, I start with some breaking news that will be front page of The Australian tomorrow, and big news in the UK as well. Amid rising tensions in the Australia-China relationship, there has now been a major leak of official records from the Chinese Communist Party. It is believed to be the first leak of its kind in the world. a register with the details of nearly 2 million Communist Party members. It includes their name, party position, birth date, national ID number, ethnicity, and in some cases, even their phone number. What's amazing about this database is not just that it exposes people who are members of the Communist Party and who are now living and working all over the world, from Australia to the US to the UK, but it's amazing because it lifts the lid on how the party operates under President and Chairman Xi Jinping. But this leak shows that party branches are embedded in some of the world's biggest companies and even inside government agencies.
Traitors everywhere.
That's right. Communist Party branches have been set up inside Western companies, allowing the infiltration of those companies by CCP members who, if called on, are answerable directly to the Communist Party, to the chairman, the president himself.
Georgia, maybe.
Along with the personal identifying details of 1.95 million Communist Party members, mostly from Shanghai, there are also the details of 79,000 Communist Party branches, many of them inside companies. This leak, and it's going to be front page of The Australian tomorrow and a big story in the UK as well, is a significant security breach that is likely to embarrass the Chinese president. But it's also going to embarrass some global companies who appear to have no plan in place to protect their intellectual property from theft, from economic espionage. The data was extracted from a Shanghai server by Chinese dissidents, whistleblowers, in April 2016, and they've been using it for counterintelligence purposes since then. It was then leaked in mid-September to the newly formed international bipartisan group, the Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China, and that group's made up of 160 legislators around the world. It was then given to an international consortium of 4 media organisations, The Australian, The Sunday Mail in the UK, The Standard in Belgium, and a Swedish editor to analyse over the past 2 months, and that's what we've done. At The Australian, we then were able to independently get hold of a more complete version of the same database from a confidential source. This allowed leading cybersecurity firm Internet 2.0 to trace the data back to its original leak and then conduct a rigorous metadata analysis and verification. And Robert Potter, who did this analysis, will be on the show in a moment. Now, a spokesperson for the Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China said Luke de Pulford was the person who received the database from a non-governmental source but was not in a position to verify it, so he handed it to experts. He said journalists have since investigated and their findings are disturbing indeed. IPAC will push for governments and companies to respond, setting out how they intend to safeguard their values in the face of infiltration.
Our values.
And that's how they're describing this. Infiltration by Communist Party members by the party in major global companies.
Wow.
Charles Sturt University public ethics academic and specialist on China, Professor Clive Hamilton, said that the intellectual property of Australian companies or any global companies that has CCP employees embedded unbeknownst to them is at high risk of theft. He said that CCP members are obliged to purloin sensitive information if asked by China's intelligence agencies. They have no choice, he says, but if they are party members, it's what they sign up to. The party always comes first.
Yep.
He also points out that Shanghai is the main hub in China for organising spying on Western nations. He says the Ministry of State Security often uses the Shanghai Academy of Social Sciences to recruit foreign academics. Now, as part of this investigation, 2 Western intelligence agency sources said they would be keenly interested in having access to the data, and we understand that ASIO already has access to this database, although that is not confirmed and ASIO declined to comment. Now, it's worth noting that there is no suggestion that these members have committed espionage, spying, no suggestion at all. The concern is over whether Australia or these companies knew of the CCP members within their employ, and if so, whether any steps have been taken to protect their data, their intellectual property, and their people. Now, this all comes as the US Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, said recently in an opinion piece published in the Wall Street Journal that China is national security threat number 1.
Full spectrum
dominance. He said the
dominance.
intelligence is clear. Beijing intends to dominate the US and the rest of the planet economically, militarily, and technologically.
Full spectrum
I call its approach
dominance.
of economic espionage rob, replicate, and replace. China robs US companies of their intellectual property, replicates the technology, and then replaces the US firms in the global marketplace. China also steals sensitive US defense technology to fuel President Xi Jinping's aggressive plan to make China the world's foremost military power.
Yeah.
US intelligence shows that China has even conducted human testing on members of the People Liberation Army in hope of developing soldiers with biologically enhanced capabilities.
Super
soldiers. Just extraordinary.
Wow.
And it's against this backdrop, over such deep concern about the theft of intellectual property, about China's escalating aggression and economic coercion, that this leaked list of Communist Party members has made its way into the public domain. Now, to find out who is on the list, which companies have been exposed, and how the Australian government has been affected, you need to read the Australian newspaper. It'll be online later tonight or in the paper and online tomorrow. Subscribe if you're not already.
Yeah, full spectrum dominance. That's the Chinese way, and the old Sun Tzu is to win the battle without ever having to take the field. And look, the West infiltrated with communists, and at all levels of government, business, and academia. Color me shocked, but don't panic, my fellow Americans, because I'm sure Comrade Joe Biden will be right on top of this.